I've always sat. The Knicks have been very kind to me. They put me right in the front row. That's when I knew I was famous. When I have courtside. They put me courtside. And the black players won't come over and say hello to me, but they go over to Spike Lee or they go.
They don't acknowledge you at all?
No, I'll be sitting next to Tracy Morgan or Chris Rock. They seat you where they seat you, and a lot of times when I'm there, I'm next to Tracy Morgan, who's so funny, and he's sitting there, and like a couple of the players will come over, they like give him that bro shake and stuff, and I'm like, these guys should hug me too. I mean, what am I? I mean, I grew up in a black neighborhood. You know what I mean? I mean, they should know that. But I get ignored. The only guys who come up and...
that is?
I think because I'm a white guy.
You think it's a racial thing?
It's gotta be.
Talk to some white people.
No, not that I saw. I want them to. I want them to talk to me. I want them to come over and go, hey, Howard, a fan of the show or something. But no, I don't get that. And you know who comes up to me sometimes? The referees. Like, yeah. They white guys and black guys. They'll come up to me, white referees and black referees. Like, hey, Howard, hey, but a lot of the white referees. So I'm like, is everything racial now? Can I get a shout out from some of the players? But this Halterstein, I'm banking on him to come over and like, hey man, I'm a fan of your show or something.
Maybe he will be ostracized by the team if he talks to you.
I don't know. I don't know. I just get upset. I'm like, fame to me is very important. I'll admit it. I like people to recognize me.
Well, they might not. They might be recognizing you, just not speaking to you.
Yeah, maybe they don't like me. I don't know. I'd like to think it's a white thing, not my personality.
All right, so y'all just heard that right there, and I could not wait to do a video talking about this because it's so much to unpack. It's really not much to unpack with what y'all just heard right there. So that was a clip from Howard Stern's show on Sirius XM, where he's with his co-host Robin Quivers, who, of course, as many of y'all who are familiar with Howard Stern going back, to the early 2000s, Robin has been, part of his show for many, many, many years. And, she's a black woman. So as you heard right there, Howard Stern was talking about him going to the Knicks games, and he would sit courtside alongside, other people. He mentioned Tracy Morgan, Chris Rock. He said Spike Lee, who are three black men. Spike Lee, he's like a faithful Knicks fan. He's like how Jack Nicholson is on the West Coast with the Lakers. When there's a Lakers game, you always going to see Jack there somewhere. Whenever there's a Knicks game, you're always going to see Spike Lee there. So he mentioned them, and he was talking about how when he would sit courtside, the players, and he's made sure to specify, the black players would not acknowledge him. He said they wouldn't give him a shake. They wouldn't dap him up. They wouldn't say, hey, what's up, Howard Stern, and everything like that. He even went as far as say, oh, Howard, I watch your show. I'm a fan of your show. Are they though, Howard? Are they? This guy's ego and narcissism is through the roof from this one clip right here. And it says a lot. And he sits there and acts like he does not know why these black players don't acknowledge him. Howard Stern, have you heard the stuff that you have said about black people over the years? It could be about black people in general, or it could be specifically about some of those players. Now, I've never watched anything concerning Howard Stern because he's always been a controversial type of person and not someone that I paid attention to at all. But if you look back at his catalog and the stuff that he says, this man has said a lot of racist things about black people in general. And he wants to sit up here and cry victim because some black players won't come up and acknowledge him. They probably know who you are, Howard Stern. They just don't want to talk to you. And that's their right. And he's trying to make it seem like it's a bad thing that if these black players are wrong for not acknowledging him. Like, you have a lot of nerve to think that you should be acknowledged just because of who you are. You know what this reminds me of? When certain celebrities get high on their pedestal and they try to tell people with that famous line, "Do you know who I am?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, I know who you are, but hey, it is what it is." That's what Howard Stern is like in this moment. He felt like the most important person sitting courtside. He probably felt like the most important person in that entire arena in Madison Square Garden. He felt like they should come up and acknowledge him. He felt like if they could acknowledge Spike Lee and Chris Rock and Tracy Morgan and anybody else who was there, then why didn't they acknowledge him? And then he goes into saying, when Robin asked him about that, if you listen to her tone, she says, "Why do you think that is?" She asked him in a tone where she probably knew what he was going to say. And he did exactly what he said exactly what I and her and probably anybody else who's listening was going to say. He says, "Oh, it's because I'm a white guy." He doesn't even say, "Is it because I'm a white guy?" He doesn't question it. He just blurts it out and says, "Oh, it's because I'm a white guy." So he's trying to say that these black players are somehow anti-white. And if you notice, that's a narrative that a lot of white men in the media who lean up a certain way politically have been trying to push as far as a narrative for so long, that there's this anti-white thing. There's this war against white people, or the favorite from Tucker Carlson, the Great Replacement Theory. Oh, so because some black people didn't acknowledge you, it must be because you're white. No, that's not it. Howard Stern, it's because of who you are. Even his co-host Robin said, "Are you sure that's what it is? Are you trying to say that it's a racial thing?" He said, "Sure. Why?" He said, "What else would it be?" He acts as if he has not said anything egregious to black people or about black people over the years, whether they were on his show or not. Like, you can go back and look at some of the stuff that he has said about black people who came onto his show and black people who were not on his show. You can even go and look up some of the stuff that he said about Robin, his co-host, someone who he has to work with every single day. It's amazing that she's still even there, but I guess she needs the funds. But it's amazing to me. One of the biggest takeaways for me is that Howard Stern and people of his ilk will be the same people that will tell black people to stop making everything about race. What did Howard Stern just do in this audio that you heard? He made it about race, and it most likely was not about race. But they'll sit up here and tell black people every chance they get to stop making everything about race. Well, guess what, Howard Stern? I'm about to throw the Uno reverse card on you. Stop making everything about race. I'm willing to bet those black players probably knew who you were, and because they knew who you were, it wasn't because you were white. It's because of your personality. When he said that the Knicks have been very kind to me, they put me right in the front row, that's when I knew I was famous. First of all, it's a lot of people that get put courtside, and not all of them are famous. So what are you talking about? He acts like this is the first Knicks game he's ever been to. I can tell from experience that from someone who works in a facility who has worked courtside, not all of those people there are famous. Some of those are just regular everyday people who could afford those tickets. So when he said, "Oh, they put me courtside, so that means I had to be famous," right? Not everyone that sits on that row is famous. And he said the black players won't come over and say hello to me, but they go over to Spike Lee. He sounds jealous. He sounds envious. Howard Stern, why don't you go back and look at the archive of all the radio hostings that you've done, all the podcasts you have done, and maybe you'll find where you said some things as to why there are people that don't like you. And watch, I bet you it's going to be more and more white people, more specifically probably white men than anything, are going to try to pull this thing off. So he's literally trying to make a claim that, you know, these black players didn't acknowledge me because I'm a white guy, when that's far from the case. That's far from it. And I happened to look in the comment sections of the article in which this was posted, and it was white people in that comment section that was flaming his ass. Like, they was like, "Really? all the stuff going on in the world and you're upset because you didn't get a hug. Like literally, he says what really got me was when he said these guys should hug me too. Let me read that again. These guys should hug me too. So Howard Stern, you're basically saying that not only should they acknowledge your presence, but they should give you a hug as well. That to me just screams slave masterish. I'm getting slave master vibes, like you should just do what I tell you to do. Why, Howard Stern, I ask you, why should they hug you? Why would you want them to give you a hug? I'm legit curious. Why do you think that you are entitled to a hug, some dap, a fist bump, whatever from them? Who are you? That's what I'd like to know. Who are you, Howard Stern? To them, at least. You're not their coach. You're not their manager. You are not their agent. You're not signing their checks. You are not giving them endorsement deals. You are not family. You're not associates. You're not friends. So if you're not any of those things and anything else that I can think of at the top of my head, then why should they care about you? You're just going to the game to watch and be entertained like every other person in that stand, whether they are famous or not. They did not come to see and acknowledge you, Howard Stern. You're not that important.